Okay, boys, here we go. This is part of the old wiring harness from the old Gator. And remember, the one motor burned out, and here's that piece right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's all burnt up over here. Before I replace the motors, I'm going to have to cut back on that to see where the copper got burnt and replace that. Once I do that, then I can actually install the new motors, which are right here in the guides. They go into the gearbox. And after that, I'll try to do a test with a battery, but I also have to find a part for this plug here, because this got chewed up in the, I don't think you can see this, but it's all kind of melted in there. And that's because it overheated from the motor being bad and really got all this wiring messed up. So what I'll do is get a new plug there and cut back to where the melt looks like after the melt. It's pretty good, but I'll cut back and find out. And everything else, this is where the gas pedal goes, so I don't have to replace that. That's still on the Gator. This is the heat cutoff right here. When it gets too hot or runs too long, it heats up, cuts it off. I'm going to replace the inside of that too. But other than that, the gear shift and the plugs here, they all look good. All I have to do is cut back in this wire and see how far it's burnt back. So I'll get back to you. Okay, I cut back on that wire. Oh, maybe about 2 or 3 inches, something like that. You can see. And I got to the good part where it's nice and shiny copper. No heating up or anything. I'm going to replace that with a new piece of wire and a connector at the end. And that way the new motor will have enough voltage and amps going through it to work like it's supposed to do. Anyway, I'll get back to it when I get the new piece of wire and the connector, and then we can move on to the motors. Okay, boys, you can see I cut that old piece off. I showed you that, and at the end you can see there was some shiny copper there. So I went and cut myself another piece of 12 gauge. You got to remember, when you deal with wires, you got to keep the gauges the same, because the thickness of the wire, that's what the gauge is very important with what you're replacing it with, because the more amperage that goes through it and watts, the thicker you need it. So this was the 12 gauge wiring harness here. So I had to make sure I used a 12 gauge splice in here, and you can see I spliced in a connector to the motor and also the splice to connect from the old cable to the new piece I'm replacing. And in order to do that, I use these clamps here, and they go and squeeze down on these connectors, and when they do that, they crimp it onto the wire. And same thing here with the butt connector. There's the 2 pieces of wire and squeeze down, and that's how they connect it very solidly. You don't use any tape at all. So anyway, once I've done that, now I'm ready to install the one motor into the gearbox here. Put a new motor in there, and you can see down here there's these guides. That's the guides they give you to put the motor on, to line it right and be able to screw it in. So what I'm going to do is pull those old guides out and put new ones in. New guides over here is new motors and new guides. So as soon as I pull this one out, I will get back to you. Okay, I popped the old guide out. I'm going to take the new guide, slip it in, but what I want to show you is this gearbox is in pretty good shape. It's nice, smooth, no problems. So we're all right with the gearbox. We don't need it. Now what I'm going to do is slip the new guide in. You can see it here, and push it down in there. Should be on the other side here. You can see it. That's the thing. Now that's going to line up the motor. I put the motor on there with the screws. So let me get that set up and I'll show you how I do it. Okay, the new guides are in. Now flip this thing over. Take a motor right here. I'm going to insert it into the gearbox, and they have little pins on the 2 little lining pins right here and right there that the motor is going to sit on. And then once that's in there, then I'll be able to put the screws in and tighten it down. Now it fits on there just nice, no problem. So what I have to do is get the screws in there, at least get one of them to that, and tighten it up. Let's see what we got here. It's tough to do this with one hand. I'll get back to you. Okay, as you can see now, I've got it in there. I'm tightening up the screws right here. When they hit a certain spot, they'll stop. Then we'll have one new motor on there. Okay, the motor's installed. Now, when you go to connect the motor to the harness, to the wiring harness, you look for a red dot. And if you can see this little red dot right there, that tells you, that that's the positive one. So you connect the positive one to that side and the negative one to the other side. It just so happens the positive one here is the one we had to splice. So this is the positive one. I'll connect it to the positive side, and the red one happens to be the negative side for this particular motor. Okay, on the one that wasn't damaged by the heat, because the motor is bad, we're just going to take that one. I'll keep it as a spare motor. I'm going to disconnect these leads from here, unscrew, and take the guides out, the old guides, put the new guides in, and put the motor back on. I'll get back to when I get that done. Okay, motor's out here. I checked it. It's a little rough turn around, but it's still a good motor as a backup motor. That's what we'll keep it for. Took the old guides out, the screws. Now I'm checking the gearbox for smooth. It seems like it's fine. It's good, no problems. So we'll install the new motor back on there. Get back to you. Okay, new motor's on there, and we're going to look for that little red dot. It tells us what side is positive, and as you can see it's right here. So we'll hook up the positive side to that, which would be our black one right here. We'll put that on that one, and the white one we'll put on the negative one. Okay, boys, I got the gear shift connected to the connector here. I got all the motor done. I got a jury rig over here to get the negative part where the pedal would be at, so we can test these motors now and see if it's working. I think I got it set on number 1, so let's give it a shot. Plug it in. You can see they're running, but one is slower than the other. One is making a lot of noise, the gearbox. If I put it in reverse, see the two are working about the same speed, but one gearbox is making a lot of noise. I think I'll have to replace that gearbox. Going first speed here. Yeah, I don't like the way that one is sounding, the gearbox. This one here makes some noise. It seems like something's rubbing. That one's good. No problem. Just seems like they're out of sync. When the gearbox makes noise, it's no good. Okay, at fast speed it seems to be working good, but I don't trust it. I'll either take the gearboxes apart or replace them. But for today, that's it. Got a jury rig, testing, new motors sound fine. I'm just suspecting the gearboxes. And like I said, I got to get a new plug here for that. And once I get this all done, you'll have a complete backup for the old Gator in case you need it again. Anyway, I'm going to close out. Okay, I disconnected the battery. Like I said, we'll have to get a new plug here for this. It's the only bad thing I see. Like I said, I jury-rigged this thing so it would work. The gearbox is a little worn, but it's okay. It's working good. And I'm going to check. I'm talking about the shifter. And the gearboxes themselves, I'm going to, first before I replace them, I'm going to pull them out and see if there's anything, if there's something cracked in there or something really worn. If it is, then we'll get new gearboxes or I'll rebuild these. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, we're just working on a backup, nothing big. And I'm charging that battery now from the Gator. And you can see it's on 80%. It's flashing green, so it shouldn't take too long to charge it back to 100%. Anyway, I hope you like this. Hope you learned something. And we'll go from there. I'll let you know when I figure out what's going on with the gearboxes. Take care. Love you guys. Bye-bye.